got this. Do you want me to use this, or can you hear me at the back? I'll use this. I've got shakes of the head. They didn't mention the audience participation bit, so the camera will be on you. Just be prepared. No, it's all right. It's not. It's fine. So I didn't prepare for having two hands full. Welcome to Pairing, Sharing, Caring. This is a one team's journey to pair programming. So we're going to go for a bit of a story this evening of a team. Some people in the room might recognize the team. We'll see. Okay. Anyway, hello, I'm Mark Bradley. I'm a consulting software engineer for a company called Armakuni. When I'm not writing code, I like to cycle and photograph. And I bang on about test-driven development a lot. If you haven't heard me banging on about it, you can keep doing it here on my YouTube channel. That's my thing that I like to get annoyed at on the internet. So, you know, everyone needs something. And if you want to tweet me, I'm at Bradle on Twitter and probably the other one as well. So, yeah. So, we're going to start our story with a little bit of an introduction to extreme programming. Has anyone here done some extreme programming? Okay, so there's a few people here that take their laptops, hang off mountings and write code. No. So extreme programming is another agile approach like Scrum or Kanban. One of the differences of extreme programming is it also looks at not just how the team plan and refine their code. It also goes into the detail of what they do when they're delivering their code and looking at different feedback cycles. So extreme programming says that you should always be using test-driven development. See a theme coming? And also you should be using pair programming to get feedback on your code as you're writing it. Okay, so this is where this team's journey started. There was a decision made that they were going to move towards extreme programming. They were going to be pairing and doing lots more TDD. Okay, but we're going to start with what is pair programming. It's not this. Anyone watch NCIS? Watching two people definitely writing something really legible on the same keyboard. Yeah, that definitely isn't pair programming. Two programmers, one keyboard, no. Pair programming is two people working on one task. Now I've said people rather than software engineers. Okay, so pairing doesn't have to be with software engineers. It can be with designers, product owners, it doesn't matter. I've done quite a lot of pair programming with designers because they like to be pixel perfect and developers don't. So if you sit next to them and you're developing the front end, they can say 2 pixels to the left and you change it and you get instant feedback. They go, no, 2 pixels up as well. So pair programming doesn't just have to be with two developers sitting at a computer. It can also be your front-end engineers, back-end engineers, product owners, designers. Designers love pair programming when they suddenly get that instant feedback rather than having to wait however long it is for the app to build. Okay, so this is what it really looks like. Looks really boring, yeah? It just looks like an office with two people sat there. That's it. Two people sat solving a problem. Let's look at closely. There's 2 monitors showing the same thing. We've all got, how many people have got more than 2 monitors at their desk? Yeah, so we can already do some pair programming. They also have 2 keyboards plugged into the same computer. It's not like when you're playing games with your kids where you give the kid the controller that's not connected to the Wii, Xbox, or whatever it is. Both keyboards should be connected to the computer, and so should both mice. Okay, so that's pair programming. It's just 2 developers or 2 people solving a problem together. Okay, now we're going to go into our story. This starts with a pretty dysfunctional team. We had some back-end developers that sat way over here and some front-end iOS and Android developers that had an entire universe apart and a product owner that sometimes spoke to both teams. Things were getting built, but they were getting built in such a way that APIs were being developed which iOS engineers never used and sometimes Android engineers never used. And something had to change because the product was not being delivered or not progressing in any way, shape or form. It was out in the wild, but new features were not being added. And what happened was a corporate away day. Who here works for a big corporate company? Yeah, so a big corporate company and a corporate away day means a meeting in someone else's office. They're very exciting. The faces of the innocent are protected. I have blurred them all out with emojis. It gives me two things. They are now safe people. No one knows who they are, and I can control them to be whatever I want them to be throughout this story. So this team went off for their corporate away day, a meeting in someone else's office. And the idea is they were going to make decisions on how they were going to move to this new extreme programming way. The day started with some talks. Not like this one. They were a little bit more boring. Then we had things like 2 heads are better than 1, an introduction to pair programming, testing all the things, an introduction to TDD. Don't forget to stretch, an introduction to Agile. It was jolly good fun. I love controlling people. It's good. This day went on and on and on, and by the end of our day, our heads had exploded, literally. But we were excited. We were going to be doing extreme programming. We'd bought our climbing harnesses and our surfboards. The magic wand had been waved. We were extreme programmers. We were ready to pair program. We were ready to do TDD. We celebrated. We celebrated the fact that we knew what we were going to do on Monday. Hey, extreme programming. Sounds fun. The weekend happened, as it does, and we would come back excited in our new teams. Ooh, cross-functional. Ready to work together. We had our easier for me to say, iOS engineers, our Android engineers, our developers, our back-end developers, all in the same team, ready to talk to each other. Crazy. We had agile coaches who were going to help us be agile, designers who were going to help us move pixels, and a product owner who was going to tell us what we were building. Exciting times. We turned up at planning. Now, we're going to go back to this. Okay, there are 4 back-end engineers, 1 Android, 1 iOS. Remember this, it's important. We turned up at planning, and we looked. No. We've got what? Okay. Anything else? An API change, maybe. No? No. Fix Android. Fix Android. Make Android better. Add features to Android. Okay. Now, I remember we talked about this. 2 heads are better than 1. We agreed. 2 heads better than 1. Okay. Testing. Yeah. TDD. Good. I bang on about it a lot. TDD. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Agile. Good. Okay. Yeah. What? No, they didn't do this one. We're not Android developers. What the hell do we do? What? We can't, like, we needed that. We needed how to suddenly be Android developers overnight. 1 Android developer is not going to deliver all those tickets. So the agile coach and the product owner said, well, what can you do to help the Android developer develop these tickets? What are we going to help him to do to deliver these tickets? And we fought really hard about this. We'll get him coffee, buy him donuts, and keep you away with new features. That's what we'll do. That's all we can do. And that day, the idea of extreme programming died in that team. Thank you very much for coming. This is my talk on pair programming. No. Let's go back to why the team wanted to do some pair programming. This is the things that we talked about on that away day. We wanted to share the knowledge across the product that we were building. We wanted more shared knowledge. We wanted to increase our code quality, not coverage. We wanted to do better learning development. We wanted focus. We wanted to be focusing on this product as a team and delivering something that was good. It was a half-decent product, but it was not going anywhere. We were looking to get better. Okay. This idea sat with some people in the team. So we'll return to our story at this point. we wanted to revive the idea of extreme programming from the death it had died that day in that team. We wanted to get back to it. So some of us hatched a plan. We decided we would focus just on the back-end developers, get them pairing. This rope is, I feel rockstar. I will trip over that at some point. We decided to just get the back-end developers involved, okay? Because we all knew what we were doing. We were all doing PHP. We could all solve the problems together. So we started pairing occasionally. So when things were a little bit tough, or we didn't know what we were going to be working on, when the problems were difficult, when we were supporting juniors coming into the team, whether they were just new to the team or they were newer to programming, we used those opportunities to pair, to share knowledge, to increase our code quality, to work better together. Okay? We didn't start like this. This was our very expensive Shiny setup years later, where we had expensive MacBooks. We started cheap and cheerful. Well, not too cheap and cheerful, because it was still MacBook Pro and what, £100 keyboards, God knows how much on the monitors, but cheap and cheerful. We slid our monitors together. We moved closer together. I will note, you don't need 2 monitors to do pair programming. You just have to be really friendly with the person you're pairing with, kind of like this friendly. So you don't need it. But yeah, so we started off cheap and cheerful. When problems arose where we wanted to pair, we slid our monitors together and we did some pair programming. And this started with a small 2-3 of us kind of doing it occasionally. And slowly our community grew until the fact that I think most of the back end of engineers were pairing. We pushed it over the line and got every engineer pairing when we said, if you pair on code, no pull requests. Your code has been reviewed. We'll get rid of pull requests. This was a massive winner. Okay, it massively sped up our development, because what's the longest anyone's waited for their code to be reviewed? 2 days? Oh, go on. 9 months, yeah? I wasn't expecting that much. Was that open source or in work? Okay, open source, okay. So yeah, so removing the PRs suddenly sped up our delivery. We didn't have to wait for someone to be free to review our code. It was being reviewed as we wrote it. We were having very in-depth discussions during our pairing. Okay, but we were still not in that cross-functional, extreme programming, all the things, working with the Android developers. The way we run them round is we were using, the no PRs really helped, and we were using TDD and things didn't break too much. We were moving fast and they wanted to move fast. So we said, well, hello, Android engineers. If we teach you TDD by pairing, you could be like us. So that's how we got some of the Android engineers and the iOS engineers to move to our cool way of working. Okay. We said, we'll teach you TDD. We'll do this magic knowledge sharing thing. We know TDD, you know Android. This will start working. And this is the bit we missed all those months ago, was although we didn't know how to, I can't even remember what the tickets were, make the geofencing work in Android, we did know how to program. And we had skills that were transferable, and we started working together. So we used we used pairing to teach our Android engineers the TDD practices. They brought their knowledge of Android, we brought our knowledge of TDD, and we kind of made it work. It's fun. Okay. And this set in motion the idea of, well, if you can write Android, maybe we can write PHP. We converted people to PHP from Android. It was mad days. And the team slowly moved towards this kind of cross-functional pair programming. And this is suddenly the dawning realization that this team had, the bit that was missed in all of those talks on that fun day in someone else's office, was cross-functional doesn't mean you're suddenly an expert in Android. It just means you're there to chat through the problem. Okay, so I like to, so who here rubber ducks when they program? Who here talks to their elephant or their rubber duck? Yeah. Imagine if they talked back and gave like good suggestions. That's pair programming. That's it. It's just you talk to your elephant and it goes, no, that's a good idea. You do that. Or no, that's terrible. Do this instead. So we were having these great conversations and we were moving more and more towards cross-functional pair programming. And this slowly evolved and we slowly got better. And it came back to where they wanted us all months ago after this thing, where we decided to sit down and write a team charter. And this is where the name of the talk comes from. We decided that we were a team of sharing, pairing, caring. Okay, the whole team had at this point embraced pair programming. They wanted to share their knowledge. They wanted to share the way they were working. And I don't know where caring came from. I think it just rhymed. So they went with it. Okay, that's the end of our story. Not really. We'll carry on. So we learned a lot over the years. We'd never say we were experts at pairing, but we spent 5 years probably becoming pretty good at it, and we learned lots of things. So now I'm going to share some of the things we learned. So the first thing is we tried out lots of different types of pair programming. Okay, so I said it's 2 people sitting down at a keyboard. You have to avoid the fights over the keyboard. And to do this, you have 2 roles in pair programming. You have your driver and your navigator. Your driver is the person with the keyboard and mouse doing the typing. And the navigator's there waiting to take the steering wheel as quickly as possible. So they are the reviewer. They are the assistant. They are the person to be discussing with. Okay, so these are the 2 roles: the driver, the one with the keyboard writing the code, and the navigator, the one providing the assistance, providing the discussion, spotting when you make a typo, when you forget the $sign, when you've forgotten the class name. There for the discussion of, which framework should we use? What should we do here? Should we do it this way or that way? Okay. But you need to swap, because no one wants to sit and watch anyone code all day. That's really boring. Watch my YouTube channel. I code a lot. No. So you have to switch between driver and navigator. And there are many different ways of doing it. One of the easiest ways is to just put a timer on the desk and swap every 5 minutes. That can work. It depends. Sometimes you get in the zone and the driver doesn't want to give up the keyboard and they keep going for an extra minute and keep going for an extra minute, and then it's been half an hour. But it works, especially if you're like using something like the Pomodoro technique, where you do your time and then you get up and you walk away from the desk. That helps swap the driver over. One of the techniques we used a hell of a lot was ping pong pairing. This is a very quick way of switching between driver and navigator. In ping pong pairing, your driver writes a test and then hands over the keyboard, and the new driver makes the test pass and then writes a new test and passes the keyboard over. It's a really good way of helping people learn TDD, because it becomes a game where you were trying to write as little code as possible when you were writing the code to force the next test to be written. So ping pong pairing, you're switching between driving and navigation every like 30 seconds, a minute. So that's where the 2 keyboards come in really, really important, because sliding the keyboard to left and right every minute, it's going to get a bit boring. So we use that a hell of a lot in our pairing. The other ones we use are the backseat driver. Not as awful as it sounds. This is a really good technique when you are working with new people to the code, or new developers, junior developers. Don't like junior developers. People who are earlier in their careers than you are. So this is where the person with the keyboard, the driver, is kind of being coached in what to write. They're just being talked through. The navigator's taking a more sat-nav approach, should we say, saying, turn left, turn right, do this, add this variable, and being less of a conversation and more of a telling what to do. As I said, it works really well when you're kind of introducing maybe new concepts to someone and things like that. Okay. And there's another one, the tour guide. This is kind of the exact opposite. This is where you need a really, really chatty driver. This is, again, a good way of especially introducing new people to your code bases. You navigate, you sit and you work on a ticket together, and your driver spends their time telling their navigator exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it, why they're doing this because there's this weird thing in the thing we do, and things like this. So, yeah, really good way of bringing new people into your team and into your code base, because if you've been on your code base for 6 months, it's probably simple as anything to find where the database does that. If you're new to it, it's going to take you weeks. Okay. So some of the benefits of pair programming, apart from the fact you don't have to, we didn't have to do PRs, and you get better code quality because your code is being reviewed and things like this. So this is more of the things we found as the less academic things we found about it. We found it fun. I mean, you've all turned up here to listen to someone bang on about coding, so why not do it at, sit and talk about the code with someone, have discussions. It's much more fun to work, not, hang on, who's actually sits here working on their own all day? Okay, not many, a few though. Okay, it's nice to have discussions. We had fun. It was so much fun. We actually became a closer knit team for many reasons, mainly because we were sat talking to each other all day, and then because you're working together, you end up breaking together, you end up having lunch together. We became a very close knit team, and we really looked after each other. It was really good. Out of interest, who here is a manager? Okay. Did you get to much code? No. We found that pairing allowed our managers to actually jump in on code more often, because you never get the chance as a manager, or when you get to kind of staff plus levels, to, you turn up to lots of meetings, you have to do lots of other things. So picking up a ticket gets difficult. We found that our managers could pick up a ticket for a day in a pair and get something done, and then go back to their day of meetings, recruitment, all that stuff. So it made it much more possible for everyone in the team to contribute to the code, even those managers and people who were more prevalent in meetings than not. That's good. Who here gets stressed in the run up to their holiday? Oh my God, the ticket's got to be delivered. Or the worst one, you're getting towards the end of your holiday, you're laying on the beach and you're thinking, oh no, I've got to go back to that ticket. Yeah. It went away. Because we were pairing, there was someone else to carry on when we went on holiday. You maybe time your holidays around awful tickets coming in so that you could start it and then leave. No. I personally found holidays became so much less stressful because I wasn't in the run up to it trying to finish something. I wasn't thinking about what I might have to come back to and remember what I was doing 2 weeks ago. So our holidays became a lot better. A lot less stressful. Okay. Sorry, I don't know where to put my water. I need some water, don't I? Anyway. So, oh, thank you. It's a long. No. Thank you. So, this all looks good. I've shown you lovely photos of us sitting in offices next to each other, pairing, working on code together. That's good. But then a few years ago, something happened. Let's not talk about it, but offices started looking like this, where they were empty and you randomly turned up. And you, like, masks weren't enough when you're sat next to someone you don't live with back then in those times. So the team had to suddenly change what we were doing. We had to work out whether we could continue our pairing. Does remote pairing work? We found ourselves asking ourselves, because we've got to change our ways of working overnight. The answer is yes, it does. In some ways, it's better. We'll come on to that. But there's kind of two ways you can do it. You can use products like, I mean, these became very popular. Everyone was using them. Teams, not so much. Zoom and things to share your screen. So these tools all allow you to share your screen with someone, and to some extent allows you to control the other screen. So this is what we did in those early days when everyone was panicking, panic buying, toilet roll. We were sat in rooms sharing our screens with people, looking at code. It was fun. So yeah, so so if you want to try, if you are a remote team and you want to try pair programming, and you've probably got a Zoom or a Teams account, I forgot one. Oh, the other one's called TeamViewer. Thank you. Don't use that one. That one was painful. Less painful than Teams. Zoom is probably the most comfortable experience we had of sharing screens, giving control of the screen to somebody. It was really good. But we had obviously quite a lot of time to experiment with this. So there is another form of pair programming remotely we tried, and it works very well. And those are plugins into your IDEs, or actually, in the case of VS Code, your IDE directly. So the one at the end is something called FluBits. It's really, really nice. I really like it. Who in their team uses, it allows you to plug into any IDE. So the power of it was really good, because if I wanted to use Vim and my colleague wanted to use Emacs, we didn't have to have a fight over it. Or if my colleague wanted to use VS Code or JetBrains or Eclipse, whatever, we could share our code. Okay, it basically just, I don't know how it worked, but I could see their code in my IDE and they could see their code in their IDE. And when they typed, the code appeared both sides. It was great. And you didn't have to have the Vim versus Emacs fight, which was good. But we were also, there are downsides to it, because it didn't share things like the terminal. You couldn't have a shared terminal, so we had to start using tmux, I think, to share our terminal. So then we had like different things doing different parts of our sharing, and it became a little bit difficult and a little bit it wasn't a great experience. But luckily, the lovely people at JetBrains came up with Code With Me, beautiful name, and that basically connects two instances of a JetBrains product. And what's great is, again, any JetBrains product. So if you're using PHP Storm and someone else is using IntelliJ, you just work together. Similar to FluBits, you just suddenly see their typing appear on your screen in your IDE. So again, we're going back to arguments about light or dark mode. Doesn't matter, because I can use light mode, you can use dark mode. It's all good. And advantages of this is it also included terminal sharing. So I could do rm-rf star on my colleague's computer if they trusted me. You literally can. We didn't test it to that much, but yeah, it allows you to do anything. So don't just use it with randoms on the internet. You can do that. You can do terminal sharing, you've got code sharing, remote debugging. So if you're using like Xdebug and you're being really cool, it worked. So you could see the debug happening on both screens. It was really cool. So we spent a long time experimenting with that. It's really good. So yeah. So hopefully, have I convinced anyone that we're going to try some pairing tomorrow? I've convinced one person, that would do. It's fine. So our top tips. Okay. So rotate. No, pair rotation is really key. Okay. So one of the things we were trying to avoid with pairing was we wanted to avoid these silos of information, the silos of knowledge that happen. You know, oh, so-and-so's the expert on that part, just give him the ticket. Oh, he's gone. Crap. So don't just have, you know, oh, that pair, they're the expert on so-and-so, because, I don't know, they might both go on holiday at once. We need pair rotation, okay? So this is you working with different people. Simple as that. What you're looking for, but it's not just that, actually. So tickets never last, I don't know, a day, they last 2 or 3 days. So actually, rotate the pairs during the ticket. This is what we were looking to do, okay? So when you're pair programming, you might not work on the whole ticket. You might do, but you might not. You need to switch people in and out so that the context of this new feature being added is shared amongst the team. Okay, this is where the sharing comes in. It's not just sharing of knowledge, it's the sharing of context. It's the sharing of everything that happens. Okay. My phone's vibrating. I'm assuming someone's complaining about the talk, sorry. So yeah, what we would do is we'd start our day with stand up, as you probably all do, and we would discuss the ticket, and we'd look at the pair who would be working on the ticket, and we would go, are you fed up with your partner yet? Do you want to swap? Those kind of conversations. Oh, I've been on this ticket for 2 days. I've probably got enough context. Move me off, and things like that. So we were rotating people through the tickets. So everyone, you would very rarely start and finish any ticket you worked on. It takes getting used to. I can see some faces going, that sounds awful. It does take some getting used to. We did, like, we started going, okay, we're going to rotate someone out of the pair every day. Every day there'll be at least one new person in the pair. That lasted about a sprint because we had a retrospective and no one liked it. So we changed it and we made it kind of the pair's decision. But also, if the pair had been hanging around for too long and were getting too friendly, we split them apart. We made exceptions for our less experienced developers to stay on tickets for longer so they could start building up some knowledge, building up some understanding, getting to grips with the code, getting to grips with what we were doing. Okay. You need to be patient. This comes in many different forms when you're pairing. One of the key ones we found with senior developers who just wanted to grab the keyboard off the junior developers because they weren't going fast enough, we developed a really interesting form of pairing, which we called sitting on your hands pairing, where the senior developer was taught to sit on their hands and not grab the keyboard. Because we need to learn. People need time to learn, and especially kind of people early in their careers, and that means hands-on keyboard time and not watching a developer develop something really fast and talk 100 miles an hour whilst they're doing something. So going back to that tour guide approach, certain developers were not good tour guides. When you get a tour guide that's running down the road with their umbrella going, here's the thing, and here's the St. Paul's, and here's the, and it's not good. So we need patience. So being patient with people. It comes down to it. Also, watching people make mistakes, not in a malicious way. Like, we learn by making mistakes. And these are some of the things we learned on the way, is actually just correcting someone when they're learning isn't a good thing. So actually letting them take a path you might not choose to take helps them learn, helps you learn because suddenly you see actually they did it better than you were going to do it in the first place. So patience is really key when you're pairing. Be chatty. Pair programming doesn't work if you're not chatty. Yeah, I've once sat as a very experienced engineer watching someone code for half an hour who didn't chat. It was a very interesting pairing experience. You need to be chatty. You need to be talking about what you're doing so that you're sharing your ideas in your brain. You can't just assume that your pet, just because you've been working with your person for weeks on end, that symbiotic link, the USB cable between your brains is working. You have to talk. You have to go, oh, I'm going to do this now. What do you think? Oh, I like that idea. That's a good idea. Let's do that. You have to be very chatty. Okay. Pair programming is probably the most, we go back to the extreme program, the most intense programming experiences I've had. Having to talk to someone and concentrate a lot. So when you're working on your own, you can just let your mind wander. You know, as long as you've kind of got your hands on your keyboard and you're smiling a bit, your boss will assume you're writing code. Your mind can wander. Whereas when you're working with another engineer and they're writing code, you have to be kind of concentrating on that because they're going to suddenly go, "What do you think?" And you're going to go. You can't go, "Baked beans on toast," or whatever you are suddenly thinking about. So it becomes very intense. So one of the key things to do is to be very religious about taking breaks. I mentioned earlier the Pomodoro technique. Hang on, sorry, water. That was a really good method we used for kind of enforcing our breaks. We would work for a period of time, we would break, we would work and break. That kind of helped some teams, but we still had people that were less likely to take breaks. So we just built a big alarm clock with Jenkins that screamed at the team to take a break at 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock and take lunch at 12:30. That worked. No one ignores the Jenkins machine shouting. It did work really well. And this is where the tight-knit team started to really build, because we'd take our breaks and there was obviously a ping pong table because, you know, we were cool software engineers. So, you know, we'd play ping pong. We'd break from ping pong pairing to play ping pong. That was a really poor joke, sorry. But yeah, taking breaks is really important because you will not realize how much you actually just let your mind wander when you're working on your own, and when you're working with someone, having those conversations, thinking constantly. The first week will be incredibly tiring. You'll get the best night of your sleep of your life when you start pair programming, because you will be knackered by the end of the day. I guarantee it. Going back to that sitting on your hands, we bought some fidget toys, just, you know, slightly more socially appropriate to play with a poppet or what those spinner things that the kids all had. I don't know, I'm too old. You know, things like that. Just something to keep you distracted, because, you know, you're watching some code being written, you're disagreeing with it in your head, or you're having a discussion with it. Keeping your just another way of keeping your hands off the keyboard when you're meant to be concentrating or meant to be navigating, meant to be that person who is giving advice and not typing at that point. So fidget toys also, as well as sitting on hands, much cheaper, kept us kind of away from the keyboard when we were meant to be away from it. One of the most important things was laptops away. This went for managers who get emails about things and want to read emails. Software engineers were very happy to put their laptops away. Managers wanted to check emails coming in, check Slack, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, we made people put their laptops away so that they were concentrating on the code. Okay, when you're pairing, as I said, it's very intense, but you want to be concentrating on the code and not thinking beans on toast, or, oh, I just need to email so-and-so about the thing that's really important. It's not. Pairing time was pairing time. Pairing time was all about developing. So we insisted on putting keyboards away. Okay. We're now up to the most important thing we learned. We spent a lot of time pairing, working together. We got really good at it. We learned all the different types. This is the top tip. When you go for lunch, don't buy garlic bread or fish sauce based products. Your pair won't like you. I found that out. I used to love Vietnamese food. Oh, you had Vietnamese food again? You know, brush your teeth, things like that. Yeah. We did find out one other thing that I'll talk about, and hopefully I've convinced some of you here that pair programming is good. You want to try it. You want to go away and try this. It's not for everybody. Not everybody enjoys it. That's okay. They just have to do pull requests and then wait for a pair to be free. No. Part of our learning curve was learning how to bring apprentices into a team where we're pairing. And a lot of the people that didn't enjoy it was because of potentially our senior engineers being not good at the start of the pair programming. Like everything, we slowly got better at it. We got better at being navigators who didn't grab the keyboard, argue over the variable name, whatever it was. Okay, so if I have convinced you that pair programming is cool or XP is cool, I highly recommend you have a read of some books. So, I mean, if you're going to judge a book by its cover alone, look at it. It's amazing. It's a really good book. It goes in really good detail of how to do pairing and kind of a lot more around the science that I didn't cover because I'm not very sciencey. Really good book, really good read, and I mean, look at it. If you're interested in kind of learning more about extreme programming and you want to program like these people on the left-hand side, then I'd highly recommend also giving Extreme Programming Explained a read. It's a really good book. It goes into kind of all the details, talks about the TDD, the pairing, and kind of this feedback thing. Cool. I've spoken really fast, I think. Sorry. Any questions? Awesome. Make it really long. So.
I might try and sort them out.
Oh.
I might, so that they can be heard. If I can, without breaking it. There we go. How about that one? Yes.
I'm sorry, is it possible to make pairing programming groups of 3 persons or more?
Yes, totally. It's not called pairing, it's called mobbing. Or if you want something more politically correct, ensemble programming. Yeah, it totally is. And actually, when I spoke at the beginning, so obviously I spoke a lot about developers, it being 2 developers solving a problem. But I mentioned that with, it doesn't have to be 2 programmers. It could be a programmer and a designer, or a programmer and a product owner, or UX, whatever. Mobbing, ensemble programming, has an amazing power of allowing all those people to be in the room and having the discussion at the same time. Okay, you can have your driver, and you know, navigate. Switching between drivers and navigators becomes a little bit more complicated, but it allows more people to be involved in the discussion. Okay, and I would like mobbing. We use mobbing when the tasks or the solution wasn't clear, and when there's complexity. And we didn't just leave it down to the team that were involved, because obviously this was a big company. There were lawyers who wanted to be involved in things and make sure legal stuff met, and there were security guards. Has anyone worked out who the company is yet? There's lots of different people who want to be involved in different parts of the project. So a feature would come in from different areas of the business. And who here has had, I don't know, another area of the business go, we need this feature added. And you go, okay, do you mean like this? And they'll go, no. And you'll have a discussion. This discussion will be over email and will take weeks. We used, when this sort of work appeared, we used mobbing, and we brought the expert to our computers. They were scared the first time and the second time, but we brought them there, and you work together. So you've got your programmers who can make the thing work. You've got your product owners. You've got your designers. You've got the domain expert in the room. So as you're coding away and going, okay, how does the till do this? Which would then suddenly spawn a spike ticket. The spike ticket would immediately disappear because the expert on tills was sat next to you and go, well, if you buy this and this and this, then this would happen. And immediately you're back, you're unblocked, and you're solving the problem again. So yeah, you can definitely mob program, and you can do some really, really fun things with it. You can just do it with 3, 4, however many developers you want. It's a really good way of sharing knowledge on something new as well. So if you do have a pair that work on something, or someone that's an expert in something, and they're going to leave suddenly, or they're going on holiday, then that's a really good opportunity to do the mob program as well. Again, it might be a situation where you do something like a tour guide kind of for the whole team. The person sits there at the front and writes code, and just kind of talks them through the code, and it's on the screen in front of them. So yeah, more than 2 people, totally possible, and really good fun. There's another question. Hello. Sorry. That sometimes did happen. That definitely happened kind of over the summer holidays when there were less people around. So that's why we tried to be very rigid, saying one person must rotate out every day. When half the team are on holiday, that doesn't work, and things like that. So sometimes you'll try to. It's not often people tried to escape and were unhappy that they had to go back. Sometimes some people, one of the reasons I'm a bit bored of working on this ticket. I've been on it for a couple of days. I want to move on to something else. But yeah, it did happen that you rotated back into your pair, but it was rare. Usually, one of the team leads, one of the managers would probably take a step back at that point and do the swap, because they were used to swapping a lot more, and things like that. Cool. I think I saw a hand at the front. E.
Yeah, kind of following on from the last question, when you were switching which pairs were on given ticket, was there a reduced sense of ownership from that and of the ticket?
Yes. That is part of it. I mean, I suppose you don't have to rotate, but the rotation gives you that sharing, the understanding, the sharing of context around the team, and especially with the less experienced developers, that's one of the reasons they wanted to stay on. They wanted a bit of ownership for the ticket. They wanted to see it front to back, so that they kind of they got that learning. And that's where the exceptions would be made. There were the exceptions would be made for those sort of situations. But generally, for the more senior members of the team, they quite liked the release, that feeling that they weren't responsible for it. They could disappear off the ticket and it'd be okay. Like seriously, that holiday slide was probably one of the first. It was the first benefit I put on, and I had to shuffle it down because it seems weird, but like, you know, I had much less stressful holidays when I was pairing because I went away knowing that the ticket I was working on was probably going to be finished. I didn't have to think about it when I got back. So yeah, it takes some getting used to, but the benefits are there once you kind of see it.
Thank you.
No problem.
I might try for the holiday thing as well.
Oh, blimey.
During a pedagogic session, how do you decide who to attribute the Git commit to, or indeed all future Git commits? And a sort of second part to that question, as a PM or product owner, assign work in, say, Jira how do you assign work to the team? You want to see that this person is working on that ticket. You can't, in most of these systems, say that two people are working on this at the same time. You have two tickets.
Yeah. Cool. So I'll answer the last one first. We used a ticket tracking system that allowed adding multiple people to it. In all honesty, we started because we were being super cool and agile. We got rid of all of the electronic stuff, and when we started, everything was on like old school tickets on a whiteboard, and that's really easy because we just had magnets of our faces on, and you just move the magnets around, and then other parts of the business want to see where you're at, so we had to put it into Jira. But the kind of source of truth of who was working on things was the whiteboard, and then the main person was shown on, like, the person that's been on it the longest or something, was the answer. But yeah, magnets. Yeah. I think in all honesty, we very quickly moved to something so we used Pivotal Tracker, which does allow you to assign more than one person to a ticket, and we moved to that really quick. We started with magnets and faces on boards, and then Pivotal Tracker became, especially in pandemic era, where we couldn't go and touch whiteboards without hazmat suits on. So yeah, Pivotal Tracker was really good. There are others, but we really liked that one. And as for Git blame, so you can add a co-author tag into the Git commit. There are so basically you write your commit message, and then you do co-author : and then the email address of the other person, and it literally shows both your faces next to the blame. And there are tools to make it easier. So there is Git Duet, which is a plugin and then that works really well. So what you do with that is you do Git commit, and then you basically have a file of initials, which then links to the email address. You go Git commit, and then you provide the initials of the people, and it does all the co-author stuff for you. So yeah, that works really well. So yeah. Yep. Yeah. I can't show you any of the code, but yeah, you literally see the two faces against it. Everything gets linked to it, and if you've got it set up, so how you can't merge your own pull request sort of thing. If you've got all that sort of stuff set up, neither of you can merge your own pull request. So then suddenly you have to have a third. Huh?
So if you set up not allowing merging,
Yep. Yeah. And it's part of the base Git system, so it just works on GitHub. It's really good. Cool. Yep.
Did you find there was a need particularly to sit closer together when you're pairing than you would if you're just sharing an office with someone sitting next to them working on separate tasks?
A little bit closer is the honest answer. I suppose we were a team. We were there. Eventually, we were two teams of like I don't know 8 engineers per team, all sitting in close proximity. So we had to sit quite close together because it got loud. That's actually probably a really good warning. If you're going to start pairing and you're going to bring it into your team, you need to be very aware of the teams around you. You know, they might get upset if you're having in-depth discussions in stereo around you. So yeah, we did start sitting closer together, but not like I have paired with someone once on something where we did have one monitor. We were very close. We showered really well for that week because we were literally sat in each other's pockets. But yeah, you do need to sit a bit closer to make to have that discussion, but not much closer. So probably close enough to catch COVID. Used to make me run around so much more when I used to run around with the mics. Can we have him zigzag?
Going back to your rotation
Yeah.
issue, did that not increase the problems of context switching and also of alternative approaches as that came in?
Yes, it did. The alternative approaches thing, I suppose because there would always be a person in the pair remaining, so they were the holders of the context in that case. So one person would leave with their bit of context, but that one person would remain. I suppose when it came to alternative approaches, we just were professional. We didn't like it works. It's fine. It's the honest answer. We were just professional. Sometimes the arguments happen. I mean, you get sometimes you butt heads with other people on approaches. We were polite most of the time. So yeah, there's that. The context switching, yes, again. So again, one of the reasons that junior developers didn't like rotating as often was they found the context switching very difficult. People with more experience found it a little bit easier. And I suppose one of the things that happened, as we progressed through our journey with extreme programming and pair programming and TDD, part of the context was in the tests. So there's always the tests. We were very strict on TDD. If you've heard me speak before, with TDD, you write a failing test, you make it pass, you write a failing test, you keep moving like that. So one of the things I always advocate for and actually really helped was at the end of the day, at break times, the pairs got into a very good process of leaving the next failing test. So if it's coming up to break time and you've just written a failing test, then maybe you break a bit early and have a bit of extra time. It gives you that context to come back to. So tests also helped us share the context really well. So it's that thing, like the learning journey of TDD, of us moving through it, was we became, we started with TDD, we were kind of good at it. We got much better at it for the reason, like lots of reasons of practice and things like it helped us share context and things like that. We also kind of using BDD as well, so we had nice verbose tests and discussions. And the other thing is because like tickets became smaller and smaller and smaller, so actually tickets were deliverable in a day, half a day, and a pair would get through 1, 2, 3 tickets a day because we were breaking things down much smaller and things like that, because it made it easier to context switch. Actually, you were only context switching maybe a couple of hours work from the evening before and not 4 days worth of work. It's things like that we learned. So yeah, like the way we worked adapted and became a lot more agile, for want of a better word. Smaller tickets, quicker delivery, lots of testing and stuff like that. So yeah. Come on, make him run. Right down the front. There we go. That's much better. Here, down the front. If someone at the back can come up with a question for the next one.
So first, you said that you're pairing with a junior developer, and you want to let them kind of go with their idea maybe, so they learn from their mistakes. So does that mean that you're not giving them your idea initially? And if you're senior and they're junior, I mean, not always going to go with your idea because more experience and they more know how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, part of pair programming was you had to take your ego out of the situation a bit. You know, going, oh, I know how to do it. So yeah, sometimes it was, you'd have the discussion, and it kind of depending on the situation. But yeah, like letting someone go down the path and explore something so they can learn was part of it. And you didn't do it all the time because sometimes you have to deliver and get stuff out the door. But like we were in a position where I would, especially when we're working with junior people and they're exploring something new, we would let them make mistakes. We'd take their, everyone's opinion was valid on an approach. If but you need to let people explore things, learn things. One of the things we did find, obviously, programming together is really good. But trying to read documentation together or learn something, like look at a design pattern or something, we'd split up for that and stuff. So I can't read as fast as anybody, so stuff like that, and we'd learn in different ways. So that sometimes also would be an approach of going, okay, we're not sure what to do here, or you might have an idea. Let's go away and do some research. You go away and read and think about it and maybe think of other solutions, and they get the opportunity to explore something and then come back and stuff like that. So sometimes it wasn't about making mistakes, but kind of taking some time apart for a research or kind of a bit of learning.
Coming to a pull request, obviously, you need a pull request. So if you pair, so with the PHP developer, you pair with Android developer, or you pair with project manager designers that still need to
Yeah, eventually is the answer. So when we started, we would review code if it was an Android and an iOS engineer a bit, just so that there was a kind of someone looking at kind of the specifics of the language or something like that, if there was a better way of doing it. But generally, I mean, we were using test-driven development, so all the code was tested. We knew it worked, and an Android engineer understands the limitations of the singleton as much as an iOS engineer, as much as a PHP engineer or a Go engineer. Like generally, like some of the things that were coming up, like or a better design pattern or stuff like that, would kind of come out anyway, because you could have those discussions. Typos got fixed almost instantly because we were all pretty good at spelling. Pretty good. So yeah.
the last one. Is it double faster to kind of justify to the
Yeah. So one of the arguments we had, so I didn't go into the detail of the talks we had because they were much more scientific. But if you think about when you are writing some code, if someone sat next to you and goes, "You've just introduced a bug," that costs nothing and is instantly fixed. If you push that to staging and your QA finds the bug, they report the bug, you have to then come back and look at the code, work out where the bug is, fix it. That's cost more money because two people are involved, it's bouncing back and forward, there's time. If you push it to production and let those testers in production find the bugs, your customers, like that has to go through loads of things. So like the reduction in bugs The increase in code quality did speed us up eventually. I mean, like if you go away and start pair programming tomorrow, it's not going to be any quicker, but we got quicker. But yeah, so.
One more question? Yes? Perfect timing.
Cool.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Hopefully that's inspired a few people to start looking up tomorrow or Monday. Cool. So that's going to be the end of the evening. We usually go to the Green Man, which is like literally somewhere around here.